Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Around the Table podcast. Today I'm sitting here with three amazing people, and let's do a little introduction starting.
So I'm Annette. I'm a fashion designer and product developer, and I mainly work with startup brands, but also larger brands. And I help them from design concept all the way to manufacturing. And I also mentor other designers.
Right, nice. Thank you.
I am Aaron. I am a portrait, commercial, and editorial photographer. Videographer sometimes.
Nice, sometimes. Yes.
I'm Elizabeth, and I am a web designer and graphic designer for brands big and small. So, yeah.
Amazing, exciting. Thank you.
Right, so to kind of start off this conversation, one thing is for sure, you all have one thing in common, and that's owning a business / a brand. So, where did it all start for you?
Should I start?
Go ahead. Congratulations. You get to go first.
For me it all started, I think, when I started working in general, because I've always worked for myself on the side. I started in graphic design, I started freelancing, then I went into fashion and I wanted to learn quickly, so I started my own fashion brand after 2 years, I think, studying and
Wow.
working for someone else. So
That's pretty fast.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I kept going for like 6 years with the brand, and then after that I had children, so then I also wanted the flexibility of working for myself, but maybe not having my own brand at that time. So yeah, so I've always done it.
Right, so nice.
And for you, Aaron?
So I had a little bit of a different path to it. So I started in nonprofit and doing development, but I was basically a storyteller without kind of knowing that, and that's what really drew me to that profession. And so I spent a lot of time working with people, crafting stories, trying to find impactful messages that would resonate with people that we would be asking for money, and then also designing stuff that would be like attract the people that we worked with. So whether it was like students or whether it was people with like diseases or whatever, like we did that. And so which was also really entrepreneurial, because it's really kind of being out there and you're trying to discover things that don't exist, which is a bit of entrepreneurship. And so after we started after we knew we were gonna have our son, we kind of started thinking, okay, we need some flexibility, and it's kind of life begins to take a little sharper focus, and I was like, I really want to explore what I do with my camera. And so from there I started doing that kind of full time, and then realized that I really loved it, but that I needed to grow. And so I just shot everything. I had my camera strapped to my side for like 2 years.
Everything you could.
Yeah. I mean, I think I shot like over 200,000 photos in 2 years. Just like I had it with me all the time, because that's the only way to get the muscle memory and to let the camera, it's a tool, and so, but the tool captures something different, and so you need those repetitions to get the tool to fade away, so that I can see the people, or the product or whatever I'm working with. So
I think that's like really interesting, because people always think it's just like pushing a button and that's it, but there's like so much more to it.
Right.
So that's nice. Elizabeth.
So for me, it's similar to Aaron's, but a little bit different. I also worked in nonprofit, but not in the development side. I worked in the program side. So I worked with children and ran children's facilities in homeless shelters for 10 years of my life. And then I had Grayson and our son, and I knew I couldn't go back to that life. It's a very hard, emotionally taxing life.
Oh, I can imagine.
And you invest a lot of emotion into it. And once I had my baby, it was like every baby was my baby.
Oh.
And so it really forced me to kind of think, okay, well, what am I going to do next? What's the next step? And that's when I started my first business, which was a product business. It was a subscription box teaching children how to engage in their communities. I took what I loved about my job and tried to spread that through play to other kids, so that they could learn how to engage in their own communities, whether that was through recycling or homeless shelters or pet shelters or whatever it was, even gardening and how that affects the environment. We used books and play to teach that to kids, and that was really my first step into entrepreneurship because it bridged my previous life, the life I was stepping out of, and into my new life. And in doing that, I had to do a lot of design work.
Right.
I built my own website, I built my own brand, I did a lot of those things. I did my brand shoots, I did all of that stuff, and I really realized that I enjoyed the designing aspect of it. And so I just started doing more and more of that, and then I had friends in the business world who needed assistance with things, and I just started helping them, and then I realized, okay, this is something I enjoy, and I just kind of started to shift my business into that side of it.
Yeah, so like you took like the things you liked, you kind of made it your own in a way.
Yeah.
And kind of, that's amazing. That's fun. It's funny because I hear like you all do different things, of course, but I do hear like a lot of similarities.
Right.
Also, like when it comes to having children and kind of, you know, wanting to make it more flexible and kind of, you know, keep combining the things you like, but also, of course, your family. So that's very interesting to hear, actually.
I think that's a common thing for a lot of entrepreneurs. That flexibility is a big driver, and also flexibility and kids go quite hand in hand. So
yeah,
I think it's very common.
And also I think, like, at least for me, I mean, I didn't start my entrepreneurship in my 20s or when I was younger. I was in a full career. I started it when I was in my mid-30s. So I think also taking into account the age of when you start may have different reasons. And so like for Aaron and I, we both started in our mid-30s to take on a different lifestyle, but that really, our child really impacted that.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends what age you start, why you start, like kind of where that's coming from. You know?
Exactly.
I find that very interesting since I start actually when I look at me, because I started like my first like freelancing and breaking out whilst I was in employment, but when I started it was like in my 20s, pre-kids, and then it was definitely more because I just wanted to be more creative. I had the time, I wanted a challenge. And that was more the reasoning, and then after having children it was a lot more about the flexibility and really building it into solid business.
Something solid.
Yeah, before then it was more because I liked it and it was a challenge, but I never thought of it like, oh yeah, this is just, it doesn't have to be just my business, it would be nice.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the same drive, I think, as I do now when I wanted to take it to really be my main income.
I guess children are a good motivation.
But
they do affect everything.
I think too, like for me, I think it's not only, you know, to take it out of cliche. I mean, I think part of it is like you're forced to ration your time. Like you have serious consequences for your time, right? And so everybody has things, everybody's busy, but when you're a parent, it sharpens that, and then it also, you begin to see a little longer, and you begin to see like, wow, I'm happier, better, more fulfilled with this. And so I mean, I think because like I look back at my life, and like when I was in high school, like I worked at a car wash, and then I would detail cars for realtors like all like Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Wow.
And so like even then I was like, and I had basically that's what I paid for part of my college with, and so I look at that kind of drive that was there early, like the first thing I'm going to do, like how do I get through college? I'll do what I know. And so I think that urge kind of re-emerged. It's nice. And the flexibility and like being able to like do, I mean, sometimes it's the curse, right? Like you want to do 1,000 things, and you're like, wow, I really want to like do 8 things today. I don't want to just do my thing. So it's a blessing and a curse. But
blessing and a curse.
Sometimes you're like, I'm tired of doing everything. I want to do one thing.
Exactly.
So when starting your business or brand, what is something like really important to consider before actually setting it all up?
Well, I think a lot from the cross aspect of a fashion brand, so I'm gonna try not just do that, but I think like a core thing is like who are you gonna sell to, like who's your client, who's your
the target
customer, because whether you're a web designer or you're selling a product, you still need to know who you're selling it to, and that kind of creates everything around it, your brand and stuff. Obviously you need to know your skills I know what
Yeah.
you're good at, but when you add to that, I think focusing in on knowing who you want to work with.
Yeah, I think that's really important as well, because I feel like a lot of people, when thinking about something they want to put out, they think in their own interest a lot. Like, oh, I think this is an amazing product, or I think this is gonna help people. But I think one important thing to think about is that maybe sound weird, but like, it's not about you. You know, in a way,
100%.
like you need to know what people actually want in order to really create something good. You know.
It's hard. Like, what is something that people will give you your good money for, right? It's like, I had a friend of mine that was like, anybody can make $1 million, but not many people can keep $1 million. And that is always, it's like revenue versus like your net, you know, because it's like you can buy $1,000 worth of equipment and sell it for 900, but you made 900, but you lost 100. So, yeah.
Because like, were these like things you knew yourself before starting, or were these things you kind of had to find out yourself in the hard way? Because now you are like, for example, you give courses and you all tell people how to kind of like do it all, how to start it up. But did you also learn it from someone, or did you kind of all like experiment with it yourself?
I think probably a combination of both. Yeah.
Right.
I think we probably can all say we've had mentors along the way, that we've had courses that we've taken, but I think a lot of it, at least for me, was trial and error.
Trial and error, yeah.
And I think one thing that's important when you're starting a business that I wish I would have known when I started my first business is that you can be as passionate about the project, you could believe in it with your whole heart, you can be amazing at it, but if you don't know how to sell it, if you don't know how to connect with the person you're trying to sell it to, you're not going to have a business. And it's super important, because I think, especially if you're not coming from the entrepreneurial world, you just think, oh, I'm so passionate about this, I love it, I'm going to put it in the world, and then here it is, and everybody's going to just buy it. And it doesn't work like that, especially in this day and age. And so really understanding marketing, understanding how to reach your ideal client, understanding who that customer is, and not in a cheesy, like, let me fill out this form where my customer is this, but in really trying to connect to the people you want to invest in what you're offering, whatever that is, whether that's a service or a product. That could be a design outfit, that could be a swimsuit, that could be photography services, whatever that is, but you have to have a way to connect to the person you want to, like Erin said, give you the money for that, because ultimately that's why you're in business to do that, right?
Exactly.
So it's a super important skill to learn, and one that I've had to try to learn the hard way.
Especially.
Yeah, same there. I thought about, actually, when you said that when I started my fashion brand, I mean, this is many years ago, so it wasn't so much social media as today, which in a sense, marketing was quite hard. It was very much like targeting magazines and journalists in a whole different way. I mean, I had a MySpace page, that was
MySpace,
I'm aging myself.
Wow.
But the interesting part there was like sales. I mean, I had already been in the fashion industry, so I knew about designing, I knew about manufacturing, but I didn't really think too much about the end customer, because I did exactly what you said. I did, oh yeah, but I like this. This is what I would like. And then when you started selling to different shops, because I did a lot of wholesale, to different shops, and they gave you different feedbacks because they had different clients. And that confused me and made ups and downs and trial and errors in my business. And that is like why I today really preach to everyone about like your customer. You need to figure out who's your customer. And if it isn't you, I mean, it could be someone exactly like you, but it doesn't have to be. But you need to know them, I think.
Definitely.
And I think giving yourself time. I mean, that's another thing. There is a process, and everybody has to go through the process. You can accelerate the process with a little bit of luck. You can accelerate with a lot of money. You can accelerate it with partnership. But the process is still the process. And so, with acceleration comes stress, whatever. And so I think people need to recognize, like, when you're starting off any new business, 5 years is your first litmus test of, is it going to work or is it not? It's not like we first started the box, I was like, we do this for 6 months. Like, why are we not like, why are we not like 200% revenue right now? And it's like, and you just don't think about the fact that everybody, like 5 years is the minimum. 10 years is like when you're like, okay, now I've got some good data, now I can really move forward. And I think it's hard, people move so fast. So I think a realistic version of time.
I feel like that's also a thing people really underestimate. Like, it takes time, and there will be moments where you're going to be motivated, where you're going to be demotivated, and there are going to be obstacles. Sometimes a lot. Are there any obstacles you faced in the years that you've been managing?
Tons.
Name a year, I'll give you.
Right.
But I think going back to that point, I listened to the founder of Kind Bar, and I remember on an interview he was saying, everybody was like interviewing me like, oh, you're an overnight success. What does it feel like to be an overnight success? You're in all of these stores, like and he was like, I'm not an overnight success. What you didn't see was all of the years, all of the work that I've done to this. You've just started to notice me overnight, and that's why you think I'm an overnight success. And I think that's so true. I think it's so easy, especially with social media, to just see when people, and you're like, oh wow, they're an overnight success, but you don't see all of the work that goes into before that.
Even becoming that person. I think it's not only the business that you have today. It's like all the steps to getting to that business. It's a journey. You might have had other businesses, like you guys had a box. You live and you learn from all of them, and then the success might.
This is my 10th business, and this is the first one that succeeded.
Most big entrepreneurs, when you read about them, actually you only see the famous business, but they've all multiple businesses behind them.
Same with like the founders of PayPal. They had multiple businesses before PayPal.
I didn't even know that.
Okay. They all failed.
I think the other side of that too is like the mind game. So like on one hand, it's like you see social media and you're like, oh, they popped up on here and like but there's been years of success. And you have the alternate where people are like, they're great at marketing or branding. They craft something that they haven't done, and the beginning of their process was strong with branding, but what you're not seeing is they don't have a business. And that happens a ton in photography. I mean, COVID was a great eye-opener for me because all of a sudden photographers who were usually working and making money were on Instagram, and I was like, wow, I've never heard of this person. They've got 5,000 followers. Oh, but they shoot Gatorade, Nike, Reebok, and I'm like, wow, their campaigns are amazing, but I've never heard of them, and because they're not on Instagram, they're in the studio. And so I think that's an important thing to recognize. Like, when you begin to build your brand and your presence online, you have to be realistic about what people are showing and know that not everything is as it appears. No. Some things are smaller or closer than they appear.
That's crazy. Like, we could do a whole podcast about social media because it gives such a
it's warped,
different warped. Like it's just, you see something, but there's so much more behind it. And I feel like that's just something a lot of people are missing. And to kind of get back to the like the obstacles, facing the obstacles, like what are some of the obstacles that you've faced so far?
I mean, knowledge.
I started in 2000.
Here, and I'll tell you what obstacles happened every month that year. I mean, like I think knowledge and expertise, and I feel like that the need for expertise has accelerated since we first really tried to start building our business. I mean, you used to be able to be online marketer, right? And you did a little bit of social media, you did a little bit of ads, you did a little bit of email marketing, and now those are all distinct pieces that need expert attention. You can't just jump on and kind of like, I mean, you can like one person it a little bit, but I think the market has become so complex that email marketing is just legitimately its own thing. Same with ads, like when you're like, okay, I've got good brand presence on Instagram, now I want to do targeted ads, like that's a whole new process. So I think one obstacle is like deep knowledge. Like I think a lot of us, you get into entrepreneurship because you you're like, I can do this. You know,
Right.
Like I can figure,
Confidence.
and if I can't, I can figure it out, and if I can't figure it out, I'll gut it out. You know, so I definitely think that has accelerated, and I feel like I know more, but I feel like I know less because things are getting so much deeper.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's the exciting thing about the entrepreneurship, but also like the daunting thing, because you find out that it isn't as easy as you thought. You're like, wow, so sending an email to a newsletter, okay, that's not just sending an email. You need to build your list, you need to find your people, and again, you need to figure out who your people are. But it's the exciting thing, but I think like you need help. I think, and every one of us need a little bit of help. Like you need maybe surround yourself with other entrepreneurs, or take a course, find a mentor, like a coach. I mean, I've done them all, and I keep doing that when I still have it. But I think like that's how you grow. You ask someone else, and you learn from them. But it's also very important to be willing to learn, because I come across during all my years in the fashion industry, I have come across startup brands that they ask you a question, you answer it, especially when it comes to kind of sales and marketing, and then they go like, okay, yeah, but I mean, I'm just gonna sell it, it's fine, and they don't take aboard anything that you need to like learn about how to sell. You can't just go into a shop and say, hey, here's my t-shirts, do you want to sell them? But you should start by doing that. But they might say no.
And I think it's also being willing to invest. I mean, you're not going to be an expert at everything, and so you have to invest in your business. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs could just go and make their own website, and there's plenty of platforms that have templates, and you can just do that. But when you invest in a web designer that knows what they're doing as far as not just design, but why they're designing it in the way for your customer, it matters. It's the same thing with social media or email marketing or ads or photography. Yeah, we all have iPhones, we can all take photos, you know, but it's way different taking a photo with your iPhone and investing in a brand shoot. Like those are two totally different things. And so when you're a business owner and entrepreneur, it's important to know what is your area of genius. And I could spend hours like Googling how to do this thing, or I could invest in another business owner who that's their area of genius. Then they help my business grow, and I help their business grow, and it's good for everybody in the community. Right?
Time is money. So if someone can do it faster than you, that's definitely worth considering.
And it's that accelerator, right? I mean, it's like how, you know, because like the other thing I think about like when you're starting your business is it's like, you know, it's like a tractor pull, you know, like the longer you go, the weight gets heavier and you get more tired. And so you have a certain energy level that you have to manage, and you have to know, like, because if you run out of time, money, and energy, then you got nothing, you know. And so you have to be able to really do that, and know where your strengths are and really thrive in those. I mean, like photography, you know, both as a large scale and a small scale is like, you know, I was like, you know, every time you discover a new layer, you're like, I'm like, wow, like I did these amazing photos with these light, I had a great designer, and then you get with somebody that has a higher taste level and a higher expertise, and they're like, yeah, but the styling is a little bit off. That, you know, that piece of it, like if you didn't have a set designer, like the background that doesn't really blend, and you're like, man, but this is amazing, like I did all this stuff, and but there's levels of taste that are important details that you don't notice until you get to that point, you know. And so it's like you're having a team and people to help you is always, I think, because I think people think entrepreneur and it's like a solo, it's like Captain Ahab, and you're like, yes, like, I'm gonna conquer this. But it really, the people I see that are successful are have a mentor or teammates. And I had an early mentor that shared with me too. He was like, people are like, oh, he's like, people always want to connect with me. He's like, I'm at the top of my game, and somebody's coming in, they're like, yeah, I want you to be my mentor. And he was like, he's like, all my mentors are people I grew up with in the business. He's like, there are people that we're both like, we're gonna crack this nut. How are we gonna figure this out? He's like, we did it together, and those are my mentors. That's my team. And he's like, I didn't go and be like, knock knock, Mr. Mentor, can you mentor me? You know, so I think it's the other thing is like value the expertise that is around you, and not feel like you can buying like courses are great and they're super helpful, but that's one part of it.
Exactly.
Having other people are like, I tried this Google ad, and like, what do you think? How you know? I think it's important because the conversations.
That is exactly what it is. You need to both listen to like the people who already know stuff. So it could be good to go to have a mentor. Like when I started in the fashion industry, when I started studying, because I started the second degree, I went out to work with a woman who is amazing, and I learned everything. Like everything I know. But like I learned a lot about like the manufacturing and all from her by working with her. But then again, you also like now as an entrepreneur, I learn every day through like peer groups or other entrepreneurs that you've met through networking. And as you say, it's like you meet, you throw out questions, and like it's both like it's nice to have both levels of expertise.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's also just like in general for a lot of people something they don't really know, and which could be a big obstacle for them because they have an idea, they are hyped, they just want to do it, and then they realize like, oh wait, maybe I do need someone, maybe I do need a mentor, I need connections. And like connections building up, that takes time, and for a lot of people that can be really demotivating, you know, because they're like, I'm gonna do it now, and as soon as something just kind of holds them back or gives them like a wake-up call, like, whoa, wait, it's not that easy. It can be like really like a downfall in a way. Like you just don't get that hype anymore. And like you've all been through that too, I guess. If I hear like this, like the obstacles in a way. So like what drives you? What drove you to still put in all the work, all the effort to build up what you want to build up? Like,
gosh, I don't. I ask myself that. What were you thinking? Why was this a good idea? I don't know. I mean, I think, I would say I'm in the middle of it. So like, I don't think I can offer any like grand retrospective understanding of it. I mean, I think from what I've understood about my journey up to this point is, for me, I think it's like, the roadblocks are, I think to be an entrepreneur, you have to be honest with yourself about what kind of person you are. And those roadblocks are there as, I think, early road signals. So if you get demotivated very quickly by failure and frustration and overwhelm, then I think that's a sign that that's not what's gonna excite you, because that same thing that the first 6 months is, it's been my 10-year journey, with this. It's like I still run against those same feelings and emotions. And you add something creative into that, and then all of a sudden it becomes even emotional. It's not just my product that I'm white labeling on Amazon. It's like my art is intertwined with my business, and that is an additional
becomes a part of you, basically.
Right. And there's a lot of discussion, like, what does it feel like to blend those? Sometimes I wish I had separated that more with the start of my business, because it's your emotions and your kind of inner part is also associated with what you're externally selling, and to lose that validation is hard for somebody to devalue that with a negotiation. You're like, but this is amazing, like, why would I devalue, and I see a lot of photographers that are business people primarily, and photographers second, and I feel like sometimes their path to success is a little easier because of that separation. But I think with the roadblocks, they're there. Those are early signals. If you're like, hell yeah, I'm gonna conquer this shit, I'm gonna figure it out, then entrepreneurship is for you. If you're like, oh my god, it's demotivating, like I hate this, nobody likes anything, you're gonna have a long.
You have to be okay with failing. I think that's super important, because you're gonna fail. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to fail, and there's gonna be failures along the way. When I shut down the box, it was one of the saddest days for me, because that was something I believed in so much, but it just didn't work the way I had thought it would work. And there's probably different, you look back and you're like, oh, I could have done this different. But ultimately, that was a bigger failure, but in any business, there's going to be moments where you fail, and you have to be okay with failing, and you have to be okay with growing, because being a business owner is going to stretch you as a person and force you to grow in ways that maybe you didn't even know you needed to grow, or that you were comfortable with growing. And it sounds weird to say, well, this is my business, not me, but you're connected to your business. This is what you're doing. And so I think you know, and it's funny, Aaron is my husband, so I know personally too, but when he says stuff like that, I think it would be hard for him to disconnect himself personally from his art, just as a person of who he is. So you have to know who you are as a person and how that affects how you show up in your business. Like for me, one of the hardest things is watching, I'm a very introverted human being, so watching extroverts shine in marketing, on stages. I went to this one business conference and it was just like being in a stadium of extroverts saying, oh, this is so easy, just do this, and I'm like, you don't understand that's how you show up every day of your life.
Right.
That is a huge challenge for me to even wake up and think about showing up that way.
Right.
Because that's just your natural instinct.
Mm.
And so it's knowing who you are, and then how do you show up as who you are, but still ready to grow when you're an entrepreneur. Those are the things you have to ask yourself. You have to be comfortable asking yourself and challenging yourself.
A lot of personal and accepting.
Yes. Because there's going to be the imposter syndrome, the doubt, the failure, the comparing, and you have to be able to still know who you are in all of that.
I heard that laughing.
I like
Sounds
how you,
familiar.
Yeah, I like how you summed it up so nicely there. It's like my first thought when you asked what drives you, it's like, oh, it's the learning, it's the fire, it's like the energy I get when I have new ideas, or when I do something good, or I get some positive feedback or something. It's like, but you also have the other thing, like Aaron said, like it is very emotional because it is you. And if you're also trying to create a brand around it, and you're selling you.
Yeah.
So criticism is hard, but you need to learn to deal with it, and you need to take the criticism and turn it into that fire again.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's like a whole conversation, right? I think critical, that's probably one thing we haven't talked about, getting good critical feedback from someone with taste in what you're doing, and not just general taste, but like a honed professional taste.
Right.
To be able to say, hey, this design, you need to clip or like this manufacturing process, like I think you're missing a key element. And like having that ability to be like, okay, I am, because we were just having a conversation earlier where like I feel like I'm at a point now, I'm like, okay, I'm here, but I don't know everything I thought I knew, so I think I need to rethink this, because I thought I knew, but it's not working, and I don't know how to fix it. And I think that's a mark of a professional, is like, how do you fix it when it's not working? And sometimes you need feedback that's way beyond your, when you're there, you're like, this is it, like this 100%, I give it 100%, and I don't know what's wrong, so so I think critical feedback is, because I think now we search for that, like when you're first starting out, you're kind of like,
you're scared
no, it's just me, and then like now I'm like, please, don't tell me it's a good photo, tell me what's not working, what's the first instinct that you're like, what is that? I want to know.
That is like looking at, like you said, when you look back at your box, that's like one thing when I think about when I had my own brand. Firstly, why did I listen to that person? And why didn't I ask my customers straight away? And why didn't I do this? But I was kind of scared of the criticism. I was scared of even criticizing the things myself. It's like something hard to explain, but it's a very early stage journey. And now, any feedback I get, you can throw it at me, because I listen to why you say it and who you are, and some of the criticism I will go, that's exactly right. And sometimes I'm like, I already knew that, I just needed you to tell me.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's like, okay, I see where you're coming from, but I'm going to come from this side, so it's okay. So I think you need to just see it for what it is.
Yeah, 100%. And it's true, like I think that, because I remember like when you're first starting out, it's like you have to create a shell, because what you're doing is ridiculous. Like the chance of failure is very high, the chance of success is very low, and people love to give you comments about what you should and shouldn't do. So there's a certain part of that early journey where you're like, put on the armor, put your head down, and just go. And I think shedding that is that next layer, and I think that's why it can be difficult. And when you look back at your early work and you're like, well, why did I think this was good? Why didn't nobody tell me that this was what I was doing? But at the time you're like, look at my photo, it's so amazing.
But I also think the early stages where like you told people, but you didn't tell the right people. Because what you need to realize is like your closest, maybe family or closest friends or something, there's all sorts of feelings. There's like envy, there's like, oh my god, crazy, why can't you just be like a normal person and stick to a job? Like there's so many emotions from other people which they mean well, but
Don't always.
maybe they are coming from their side. They never thought about it from who you are. And I think that's where the difference is. In the beginning, you should learn not to listen,
Right.
because you're going to get a lot of criticisms from the wrong people.
Yeah.
But as you go in the journey, you look for criticisms, but from the
the
right
right
people,
people.
like from other entrepreneurs like
Right.
this. You're like, oh, Aaron, what would you do? Okay. Or Elizabeth, can you look at my website?
Yeah.
And I can take that criticism, but
Exactly.
and it's different because you know they're experts.
Yeah.
Well, it's like there's a quote about being in the arena, and when you're in the arena, you don't take criticisms from people who've never stepped into the arena. If they're in the fan stands, you don't take the criticism from them because they have no idea. They've never
What
walked
it
into
is,
the
yeah.
arena themselves. And so you have to know who you're listening to and why, because there's going to be critics everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of them might be talking
Right.
stuff that's not relevant.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Exactly.
They do it with love, but they do it
Yeah.
from their point.
Yeah. they
And
don't
not
know.
everyone is an entrepreneur.
Right.
Exactly.
All right, great. Well, thank you all so much for being here. That was it. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Willem.
Thank you.